One last idea that we want to look at helping us understand function notation is, let's say that I have a listing of values in a table where I have a listing of x values and a listing of the f of x values. Questions we want to find out is, one, is this actually a function? Well, remember, a function means that you have every value in the domain corresponding to a unique value in its range. So x's are independent variables, which means every time I put like a -2 in, am I going to expect the same result every single time? Well, so far I have here is a -2 corresponds to a 5. A -2 does not correspond to another number. So -2 always becomes a 5. -1, this table tells me it becomes a 0. This 0 tells me it becomes a 3. This 1 becomes a 1. And this 2 becomes a 4 once I introduce these throughout the function. So we can say that this is a function because every value in this column matches up to a unique value in the second column. So it is a function. What's the domain and range? Well, the domain are my independent variables, the numbers that I would put into the function. And these are my x's. And so my domain are this first row here. My range are all the solutions or all the outputs I would expect when I put in one of those domain numbers. So my range, in this case, is the second column. What does f of -1 mean? Well, f of -1 means that when I put -1 in its place of x, what does the value of f of -1 become? So I can see that right here. This represents, right here, if I put f of -1 in, its result becomes 0. So f of -1 equals 0. What's f of 0? I can find f of 0 from this part of the table. So when I substitute 0 in for x, its value becomes 3. The last question we want to look at is the fifth one here. Well, what's x if I have a situation where f of x equals 4? The value is 4. What's the input that caused that to happen? And I can see that right here, where 4 represents the value of my function at where the value is 4. Well, what's the x that caused that? What's the number I put on the front side of the output, or the front side of the function machine that produced a 4 once it went through? It was a 2. A 2 caused a 4 to happen. So the x here is a 2. So our function notation can also be observed as we become more comfortable looking at these values written in a table form.